Hello, Internet. Woo. You guys are so good at clapping. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I think I complained once about the in-studio audience being sleepy because it was an early show, and now, I don't know if you all heard that show maybe a couple episodes ago, but now you're all very good clappers, and hopefully you folks out there in the Internet are clapping too. I'm Chase Jarvis. About once a month, I bring together a show and invite someone who's inspirational to me, who's world-changing and world-leading, whatever it is that they do. Invite them here and talk to them for 90 minutes so that you can talk to them, so that I can talk to them, the folks here in the in-studio audience can talk to them, we can learn something. Today's guest, I'll get to in just a second, no exception. We're going to learn a ton today. Before we do, I want to spend a special moment to say thank you so much for HP, who's taking care of us here in the show and helping me make the world a more creative place. Also to the folks at Broncolor and B&H, for without whom this gear wouldn't be possible, then nor would the show. So much respect. I am closing a contest that's been going on for a few days now. For the people that were helping us spread the word about the show, I'm giving away a signed print from yours truly, valued in the neighborhood. At auction, it goes for about $5,000 for 11 by 14 print of mine. And the winner there, who had a very creative tweet, the tweet was, what rhymes with iPhone 5? That's CJ Live. Tune in this Wednesday. So very good. And the winner of that is David Way 90. So David, we will be in contact with you. Email production at ChaseJarvis. And now is the start of a new contest, which if you hear something that you like in this show, a quote, an inspirational piece, or some advice or something, it's probably going to come out of Robert's mouth, because that's why we invite these brilliant folks on to the show with us. If he says something great and you want to win a $3,500 Broncolor Senso light kit, the Broncolor is the brand that I use. If you want to win this kit, retweet that quote at Bron Imaging, and a link to this show here, which is chasejarvis.com/live, any sort of version of that. And that will, at the end of the show, we will pick a winner for that $3,500 value. Now that happens to only be able to be shipped in the US. We just got that news this morning, so sorry for the curveballs. Hopefully you folks in all the other countries, which make up a very important part of the show, are still cool sending a retweet out there to help celebrate the show. That being said, what else did I got left? I think it just gets into the guest now, which is a very, very important part. It's what you've all been waiting for. He really needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. He's a tech pundit. He works for Rackspace as their sort of startup spy. He gets to go around the world and interview the best startups in the world. That's how he gets the inside news. He's a geek at heart. He's a hero to the geeks. He's a gadget freak, and his name is Robert Scoble. Please join me. Welcome. Woo! Come on, buddy. Guys, hug it out. Welcome. Tuck it right in here. We got water, and we got a lot of gadgets we're going to get to here.
Yeah, we're watching Twitter live, so you can tell us off.
Yeah, no.
Just use the right hashtag.
That's right. Hashtag is a great point that Robert brings up. Hashtag CJ Live. We will be taking questions. I've got some folks back there helping me wrangle those questions, and then they'll kick them to us on my monitor right here. We also can look at them on the iPad. So this is a worldwide conversation today. And of course, you folks in the Internet or in the live studio audience don't feel left out. We're taking questions from you too. So, welcome. One of the things that's funny to me is that when guests come, like we got together last night and talked, and I always wish that there was like a microphone strapped to us, because the conversation last night was really, really engaging. And one of the things that was the most engaging for me is well, first of all, I want you to start with your background, but then I want to go right into what you're working on right now. So tell me how you got to be the leader of the hero of the geeks on the web.
Well, I grew up in Silicon Valley. My dad was an engineer, and that brought a lot of new stuff into my life. I was in junior high. I got a tour of Apple Computer when it was one building, smaller than this building actually, which gives you a sense of how nuts the world can get within 30 years, right?
Wow.
That'll make your dreams bigger.
Yeah, I'll say. Okay. Dangerous.
And yeah, I fell in love with computers in junior high. You know, we were at junior high, unboxed the first Apple IIs there, and And ever since then, I've been at the change of from old to new. You know, in West Valley Community College, I met Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, and talked him out of 40 grand for the journalism department, and got to change that department from old to new.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So how do you talk Woz out of 40K?
I just asked him. First I interviewed him because I stalked him and then interviewed him because I kept seeing his car in the same spot.
You guys see a pattern in this? This is great. So if Robert calls to interview you, you know that he's going to hit you up for 40K any minute now.
Maybe.
So again, that was very transformational, right? You kicked into the journalism side of things.
Yeah, you know, he was taking a Spanish class where I was going to community college, and yeah, I asked him. I didn't ask him for 40 grand. I asked him. You know, we were using a Mac Classic to lay out our full-page newspaper, and back then we were using PageMaker, which, by the way, was invented right down the street.
Yeah,
right. Aldous PageMaker, and you would scroll around the page using key commands, and it was slow, and it was black and white, and it was crappy and crashed a lot and stuff. And so I said, you know, I know you get new computers every 6 months because you're, you know, the co-founder of Apple. Right. You're you. Can I just get on the list to get one of the old ones? You know, because even having 2 Mac Classics would help us imagine. And he goes, and he went off. He actually said, "Oh, you need a whole lab." This was back when RAM was $450 a megabyte, right?
Wow.
Not a gigabyte, a megabyte. And he said, "Oh, you need a whole lab. You need big screens, color scanners." I'm like, "Color scanners? I'm not even in that headspace yet." This was before Photoshop came out, you know. Wow. And yeah, it just led. Anyways, he talked about, you know, having a whole lab. And he said, "Oh, write up a proposal." I did, and he gave me about half of what he told me, but it was still way more than I even dreamed about. You know?
So you leveraged that into, I'm not mistaken, like a job from. Did you go from there to Microsoft?
No, I went. Oh, no. I went to San Jose State. I went to a computer programming magazine called Basic Pro, which was covering Basic. By the way, Microsoft's first product was not Office or Windows. It was a BASIC compiler, right? That was what Bill Gates thought he was going to sell.
Don't go too geek on me here. I don't even know what a BASIC compiler is. It sounds very dangerous.
You know, back when you got an Apple II in 1977, it didn't have any software that it came with it. It didn't have a spreadsheet. It didn't have a word processor. It didn't have any games, and so you had to write your own software. You basically had to program to make really anything do it.
I just had an Apple IIe that played Flight Simulator. That's all I knew, and that's all I wanted. And then there was that Olympics game that came out that had the joysticks. But from then on, I started to get more involved in computers. But I want to follow your path. So then eventually you're at Microsoft, where you were disruptive.
Well, no, the Basic Pro was interesting because right after I joined the magazine, it was 6 people. Visual Basic came out from Microsoft, which was a dramatic shift in how programming was done. Now programming was both visual and code. Got it. Before then, it was pretty just code screens, right?
Got it.
And that blew up. The world switched to Visual Basic. The
programming world.
Well, a lot of the program. It was the hot language of that era. And Windows blew up, right? Windows blew up right after that. And I got to watch the inside of Microsoft go from a fairly important company to a dramatically important company, all in 5 years. And that got me into the Microsoft ecosystem. And
where you were writing a blog, was it called Channel?
No, I started the blog after this, right? Anyways, there's a whole long thing. I was running conferences, that got me into the blogging, but it got me into the world. You know, part of why I'm here and not some other video guy is I get access. Right? You get access to great subjects, and I see you hanging off of helicopters and shooting really world-class snowboarders and stuff like that. That makes you stand out from other photographers who probably have the same skills, can probably do the same work you do. But because you got into a place in the world where you get invited to hang out with the best snowboarders in the world, we all know who you are.
And
right?
so you're saying that there's an access component. Like this episode is called the Future of Tech for Creatives.
Yep.
And so one of the things that I want to make sure we address is where we are now, where it's going, and then what's like way out on the horizon. So we have, if I was going to summarize the episode, we're going to talk a little bit about like your new book that's coming out, which is it's all about context, and I can speak to that because that was career changing for me as well. We're going to talk about some gadgets these ones here, which photographically speaking, it was just really easy to point at these things. And are you going to videotape me right now?
Yeah, this is my camera. This is what I carry everywhere in the world, you know.
Well, it's wow. All right,
3D.
Here we are. I see two lenses. This is a very ugly version of a 3D me. Anyway, we're going to talk about a whole range of gadgets from something that's a little bit historical to something that's happening now, all the way to, like, say, the Google glasses, and what does that mean? And then we're also going to talk about some startups that are going to change the future of creativity for creatives, and some apps as well. And sometimes those are one of the same, the startups and the apps. So if we can, let's go back to context, because I know you announced, actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about your new book? So you got a book that's
I'm noticing, and it continued this week as I went around startups in Seattle, I'm noticing a shift across the board. I'm noticing some patterns. One nice thing is when you see thousands of startups, you get to see patterns before other people do who don't see those same developers. And I'm seeing one of the patterns is sensors. Our cell phone has, I don't know, 6 or 7 sensors, and soon it might have 9 because they're going to add temperature and barometer to the cell phones, right? So it studies your GPS, so it knows where you are. It has a visual sensor, so it captures pixels, right?
Yep.
It has a microphone, we know that. It has a gyroscope, so it can tell if it's spinning or if it's moving.
Accelerometer.
Well, it has also an accelerometer, so it knows that it's moving through space, right? Or being shooken. Or one guy, Alohar is a startup down in Silicon Valley who was, he ran the Google mapping team for a long time. He said, I can tell that you're in a car wreck, and I can build a new kind of OnStar, because your phone stops because it hit a tree. Right?
Yeah. You're traveling at 62 miles an hour, and then it went to 0 really quickly. So you've been in an auto accident. I was actually in Detroit at OnStar not too long ago, and they were talking about all that same technology, which was just
But they built it into the car. This is on
a separate device, right?
On your device, on your
body.
body.
So if you throw it against a tree, it thinks that you've been in an accident.
Well, and
a couple times I've wanted to spike my phone. I don't know about anybody in the audience, but okay. So
anyway, so there's all these sensors on the phone, and soon you're going to be wearing sensors, if not already. You know, the audience probably, some of them are probably wearing Nike Fuel Bands, which have 3 sensors in them, or Fitbit, or Jawbone, or whatnot.
And this is a pattern that you are seeing right now.
Yeah.
So
and there's new kinds of sensor companies coming out that'll add even more sensors. We call this the Internet of Things, right? So Woven, for instance, is making 30 different kinds of sensors with a little wireless component. And so farmers can put those in the field, and they have all sorts of sensors that sense water, sense nitrogen, sense all sorts of stuff. You can put them in your house to sense temperature and movement. And they all talk then to the internet through this little wireless mesh network that they build.
Our conversation at dinner last night, to take this back to creativity, is that it's something that there's a handful of us, like as a pattern recognizer myself, and being in all these closed door meetings and hearing about what companies are talking about, and sort of technology planning meetings and whatnot, you start to see how context, and this is the segue to your book, how context is actually more important than we think. A long time ago, it was just a cave painting, right? There was a thing on the wall, it was just the visual, and you're like, oh, wow. And there wasn't really the conversation. I mean, I wasn't there, but there was less of a conversation on which caveman carved it, what kind of rock was it in. It was image. And then sometime, well, fast forward, this is going to be a very brutish version of history, but let's take it to the 50s then. We're going to go 1950s, where they started really talking about which artist made this particular painting. You know, even earlier, the commissions were from the church or the state or whatever, and it was about what got done, and the art was really about the image, because only a few people could paint like this. So fast forward, 50s, there started being a name attached to the image. Yeah. And then fast forward, I'm making huge jumps, I realize that, don't call me on the internet. And then let's fast forward to not too long ago. And one of the things that I felt very compelled about was, for example, the iPhone, or any phone, the idea of mobile photography.
Yeah, you were really a leader in that. You started a movement that led to Instagram and Camera Plus and Camera Awesome at SmugMug. They were all feeding off of what your pioneering work, and others. There were others.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And one of the things that I noticed about that was context. So it wasn't just that there was an image. It was an image, and you had a piece of location data, or you knew that it was taken with, at the, iPhone 1.0, for example, was just under 2 megapixels.
Yeah.
So you had a knowledge that, oh, if it's taken an iPhone, well, that's a crappy camera. I mean, I was vilified for taking pictures and sharing them with a crappy camera.
Yeah.
And that actually mattered. So it was like, okay, Chase took a picture of someone famous or not famous with a device that's only 2 megapixels and then shared it to X thousand people, which then was retweeted or socialized or whatever. So you start to build a very complex web called context.
I've only told you one of the trends, which is sensors. The second trend is the maturation of social. So how many people in the audience are not on Facebook? One hand. One hand.
One hand out of 3,500
okay.
people.
So now that we have a mature, social system, we can bring out a new kind of camera app. In fact, one is coming out tomorrow morning. I can't tell the brand name or whatnot, but if we took pictures with this new camera app coming out tomorrow, and I'll have a video, it joins our pictures together because it knows we're all on Facebook. It knows which of us are friends in this audience, and it'll join us together. And it's using the new sensors in the camera to join us together because it's using location, and it possibly could use a gyroscope or compass because it knows I'm aiming this way or aiming that way. That's a different context.
Got it. So let's sort of distill this. It sounds very ethereal, but one of the things that if we're talking to you about the future of what it's going to be like to be a creative, all of these things are going to matter. Yeah. The device that you shot it on, and this is not optional. This is like what you shot it with, where it was shot, when it was shot, who shot it, how many Twitter followers they have, and you can like it or hate it. But this is one of the things that I feel like I was early on it and got high fives from some people and got like shit talked from others.
Yeah.
And the future, however, is not going to be less of these factors. It's less context. It's going to be more context. And like we were talking last night at dinner, there's going to be a sensor that says when Chase or Robert or Adam caught this photograph, his heart rate was at 140 BPM. And so he was fired up. He was excited. He was in a war zone. She was jumping out of a plane. Like whatever the context is, that's actually going to be an important part of
well, let's say you're a wedding photographer, right? Several of my friends are wedding photographers. Mm-hmm. Do you just shoot on a 5D without a GPS and don't capture the location? Do you not make friends with the audience that's there on Facebook and get them
excited about your pictures?
Well, and do you not join this new app and get your photos to join in with the other people and get their photos to join in with yours and add more context to it and make you seem cooler and more with it and get your distribution into the Facebook audiences of all those people at that wedding? This is how you're going to find new business, right?
Yes, and then I've been talking about this for a long time. It was rough on me early because people talked a lot of trash. A friend of mine, Rob Haggart, who's a photo editor, started talking about it being more than the image. And you can also, we can apply this concept broadly to anything outside. I'm just talking about photography because that's the thing that perhaps the audience is most familiar with. But the same thing is true for medicine, is true for, like we talked about, a bunch of other genres that it's going to be really important for as well.
Well, there's new apps coming from SRI, for instance. SRI is the research lab that brought us the mouse in Silicon Valley, brought us all sorts of stuff, all sorts of radio technologies, but brought us Siri, right, for the iPhone, which works sometimes, and when it works, it's magic. When it doesn't, it sort of sucks. It doesn't have enough context about who we are. Well, the next series are going to look at our Google Calendar and our Gmail and our social behaviors, and are going to suck data out of those and present us with new insights about who we are. And it's going to, like,
is that scary for anybody in the audience that Siri is going to look at your email and look at your history of the pictures you've taken from wherever in the place you've taken them, look at your videos online? Is that scary for anybody?
And we're already seeing products on the market. Google Now, for instance, already knows my next meeting, right, in an hour, and already knows the traffic between me and that meeting, and is already saying, hey, you better leave early because there's President Obama.
Don't leave early.
No, but President Obama is on the freeway and closed all the freeways down, so you're going to have a problem in your next meeting, right? It's already happening on our Android phones today, and it's just going to keep getting better and better until we get these Google glasses, and it's going to tell you even more stuff.
So what do you think about that, Internet? Remember, we're at #CJ Live. If you just joined us, I'm Chase Jarvis. We're here at Chase Jarvis Live, and I've got the guest, the one and only Robert Scoble, and we're talking right now about the context and the future of technology for creatives, how it can make your work better, how it can change the way you are perceived by your peers and your customers, both positively and negatively. One of the things that I felt like we were starting to go there, where's my little notes? Yeah, so this access idea.
Yeah.
So what you get probably more than anybody I know it's like you and Walt Mossberg, maybe a handful of people, you get to see these things before. You get to talk to the Steve Jobs of the world, talk to Zuckerberg, talk to, Sergey and all those guys,
yeah.
Larry, and you have conversations, like you refer to them by first name, first of all, which is what I think is cool.
Yeah.
Second of all, you get
Mark is actually Zuck.
Yeah, Zuck. There you go. Zuck. So you're talking to Zuck, and one of the things that Zuck said last night was talking about, or one of the things that you noted is that he's building an engine.
Yeah.
And for creatives, like right now, I think there is at least amongst the people that I know, there's this reluctance to like other stuff, and I'm bummed. It's like by saying that you don't like somebody else's stuff, you're protecting yours, and that's not true. Like, ironically, the more you put out there, the more you're going to get. And talk to us about this. So Zuck's engine versus liking and the profile.
Well, Facebook and increasingly things that compete with Facebook are media distribution engines. They don't. When I put a post into Facebook, it doesn't go to everybody here. And how did it just? Even though you're my friend, you might not see it. Why not? Because you didn't have an affinity for that piece of content. It decided, hey, I'm talking about my family. Chase doesn't care about my family. He cares about when I talk about context or when I talk about a new startup. That's why he's following me, and that engine can tell. It's called EdgeRank. You engage on certain kinds of content of mine, and you don't engage on the family photos or the cat photos, right?
So what about, I like cat photos.
Well, you do, but I'm using that as an example.
The internet's made of cats, but so what
Ben Hur's line.
Yeah, it is. So, but if the way I like to think about it.
We should explain that. He runs I Can Has Cheeseburger. He made a multi-million-dollar business out of cats.
Like literally, and he just lives down the street. So.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the gas tank. So this engine that Zuck, for example, and others are building, and I would say that it's Google Pluses, a lot of the other networks, probably even Twitter.
Yeah, well, Twitter shows you everything. And so all these engines, you follow something and you see messages, right? So I like the Seattle Seahawks. I start to see news about the Seahawks all of a sudden. How did that happen? And well, there's an engine that you poked and it decided to bring you more content. What's interesting about Facebook is it doesn't bring you all messages about Seattle Seahawks. It decides for you what you're going to see. How did it do that? How much do you engage with it? How much do you, when you see a message about the Seattle Seahawks, do you click on it and go somewhere? There's lots of companies studying this. Bitly.
Sure.
Bitly has a new newsreader that's coming out, I think today, or
Sirens.
this week.
Stay down.
They're coming to get us. That uses this context, this behavior of your own to bring you new kinds of news, right? There's lots of systems like this.
Got it.
It's just that Facebook is the one that we're all on, except for one freak. What the hell? There's one guy here, it's not on Facebook.
Respect, man, he's an individual.
That's an individual, right?
But so let's talk about that as a gas tank, though, if we can.
Yep, so if you have an engine, it's like a V8 engine. If you have not told it enough about yourself, it can't route the right messages to you. So if you've only told it, 5 friends, and you've only liked 15 things, which is pretty common, you're only going to see a very small amount of news, or pictures, or images, or advertisements.
If you see the same amount, it's not going to be the right stuff for you.
Yeah, because you haven't told it who you are.
Got it.
Right.
So
the more Facebook knows who you are, the more it can serve you media that you care about. Right? The more you click like on your favorite sports team or your favorite photographer, the more you're going to see this, and then you can keep going. Right? I have an interest list that Thomas Hawk created on Facebook of all these cool photographers. You're on it, and
Sweet.
Trey
Thanks,
Ratcliffe
Thomas.
is on it, and
Sure.
on and on. All these great photographers. So I followed that list. That signaled to the engine that I like photography, and guess what? I start seeing great photography on my feed.
So that's part of this thing that I feel like with the number one set of questions that I get in any photography environment, if I'm talking somewhere, you know, giving a keynote or something, is about social. It's like, how do I take my work as a creative, and this goes for filmmakers, not just photographers, filmmakers, designers, like anything. How do I get my work seen? And the answer is social. And if the answer is social, how do I create an audience? Well, you create an audience, the one-liner that I use is you got to give stuff away and expect nothing in return. And one of the things that I'm hearing from you that you have to give away is your preferences. You have to tell people what you like, because you will be blessed with a bunch of inbound stuff that's more appropriate for you. When you see the stuff that you like, in theory, that should be a nice package of inspiration for you coming this way. And if you're seeing shit, then you're actually, it's like garbage in, garbage out. You may have heard that. So that you're not doing a good job interacting with the engine. Now, for some of you folks out there who this could be very, very scary, I think you have to get over it, or you have to opt out.
Yeah, like that one.
Yeah, and like, no disrespect, but it's just a different approach.
Yeah. So back to the engine.
Yep.
The more likes you give it, the more it's like giving a V8 engine more gas and more oxygen. If you only give it enough gas and oxygen and enough electricity to run 2 cylinders, the engine will run. It just sputters, right?
Yep.
You give it enough electricity and enough gas and enough oxygen to run all 8 cylinders, it starts humming, right?
And you've had, what do you have, 50, 200 likes?
If you go to my timeline page, which is public, by the way, I do
timeline.
not use privacy. Anybody who does is limiting their visibility to this world. You can see all my likes. You can steal all my likes, by the way. You can go down and say, yeah, I like that too, like. You can see how many of your friends like those things that I've liked. So there's 5,200 things. You can go through them and see, oh, Round Table Pizza, 11 of my friends like Round Table Pizza. Chase Jarvis, only 3 of my friends like that, right?
Of course.
You know, and you can go through and see how popular things are,
Okay.
and then you can like
So
them.
let's bring that back to creatives for just a second, because if you're a creative and you're looking for inspiration, you have to feed the inspiration beast, and the inspiration beast is your profile. And there's this disconnect. People think that inspiration for photographers or any artist in that matter, just happens out there. No, you have to be participating in art. You've heard steal like an artist. You know, Austin Kleon's new book, Steal Like an Artist. You have to be aware of your surroundings. That's where inspiration comes from.
Yeah.
You know, Picasso's got famous quotes about stealing stuff, as do a lot of artists who are littered throughout history. So there's part of this inspiration quotient that you need to feed the engine to receive. Now, we've got some questions coming in from Twitter. I'm getting them on my monitor here. You're probably looking on your iPad. I'm going to go to the phones for just a second here. At Peter Duke Photo says, hey, Robert, where is the balance between context and privacy? So it's very, very relevant to what we're talking about right here. What's your answer on that one?
We're going to figure it out. Humans have lived through an era of no privacy. It's called a small town, where we all knew who was sleeping with who was cheating on who was, you know, an alcoholic in town, and all that. We're going to experiment with that. Some people like me are going to live completely in public, and that brings a lot of benefits. It brings some negatives too. People recognize me in the street, and I can't get away with some things that other people can get away with. Or maybe I've configured my life to get away with them. Which is true. I'm in TechCrunch kissing a guy at a London party. And that might have been negative for a lot of people in a lot of contexts, right?
Yep.
But I've gotten invited to some really kick-ass parties since then. But you know, back to the likes, you can see how relative things are. By the way, if you go through and like things,
I don't know if you guys can get a shot on that, Scott.
Yeah.
Can you get a shot on that?
If you go through and like things, if Chase Jarvis likes, what's this thing over here? Like LXBN, one of the companies I interviewed here is the lawyers blogs. If you like that,
if you love lawyers,
if you love that thing, right? But if you love that thing, guess what? Facebook just distributed you to other people. So this is how to look at the new world. If you are a photographer trying to build a brand, you're trying to increase your distribution.
It really is about distribution.
So that way you get invited on that cool helicopter shoot. you know, with the cool snowboarder,
And
or you get invited to the White House.
The shit talking that used to go on, I think, has been subverted because most of the folks that talk shit or vilified what it is that I was doing 10 years before it was cool to share behind the scenes videos about, you know, taking pictures of, you know, fill in the blank celebrity or some ad campaign, is that the folks that were talking trash earlier ultimately ended up calling me asking for help.
Yep.
And I just had a sense of information moving more quickly and that all of this is going to be discovered or discoverable in the near future. So if you take that idea of sharing social stuff as the primary mechanism from which you get work as a creative, the primary mechanism, you no longer need permission from an agent, you no longer need permission from a gallery owner, from an art buyer at an agency, a photo editor, a magazine to share your work at scale. That's the only way you used to be able to do that. In a magazine, you'd have to go, oh wow, I got approval from the photo editor, therefore they printed my picture 80,000 times in this magazine. Yeah. Or from a photo editor, I had to get permission, or from an art buyer, I had to get permission to be basically selected for the campaign because they liked my work, and then I was able to scale it. But now, we get scale. If scale is the advantage, why are people only participating in some networks and not all of them?
Because people are funny, you know. Some people don't participate in any of them, right? Want to be opt out, you know. Don't get me into this world. They don't understand it. They're fearful of it, and they're Amish. Yeah. Don't even use telephones, right? They've decided to opt out of the whole modern world thing.
But go back to Peter's question. What is the balance? Is it this? So the small town. We just, your answer, if I understand it right, is we're figuring it out, and there is no clear answer right now.
Well, we're figuring it out. We're figuring out how to keep some part of our life off of this stuff. Okay. We're figuring out, if you talk to the kids, like my son's 18, they know how to lie to Facebook to get results that they want with their friends, right? Whoa. And we all lie to Facebook. We all keep things off of Facebook that we don't want to get deep with, or don't want to piss people off. Or we all know that there's some sort of social contract here, and we treat Facebook sort of like the front page of the New York Times. You know, we don't put our dirty laundry on the front page of the New York Times willingly. Sometimes we do unwillingly, but not willingly.
Yeah, like turn your phone off after 2 a.m., right? So if that's the case, then are we hurting the machine or are we helping the machine?
I think when you tell the machine what you want to see, it changes both the machine and us. And I think the kids are very adept at it. We know that, hey, if you like a certain brand or a certain thing, that it changes how people view us and how the machine brings us information. So we learn very quickly. I mean, my stepmom just got on Facebook for the first time just a couple weeks ago. And she immediately said, I'm getting too many notifications. I'm getting too much inbound from my friends. I go, well, they're your friends, but I don't want that inbound. But then unfriend them, and, you know, or tune them up or down. And there's lots of ways on Facebook to stay their friend.
Right.
In other words, not to
you don't see the notifications
and turn down the amount of stuff on the feed. There's
so right now it's a human engagement thing. You have to decide how much you want and how much you want to play the game.
Right now it takes some work.
It does take work. I feel a burden sometimes. For 5-8 years I was like, my social media is not a burden. I love it. It's so much fun. It's another creative outlet for me. I'm in there sharing, you know, little videos behind the scenes, pictures, and at some point, I was like, wow, you know, now I'm on a half a dozen different networks, and they're not all, like, they don't all smell really good when you put them out together, and so I'm having to segment that stuff.
Where this is going, and back to the privacy thing, I mean, we're going to figure out how to keep stuff off of Facebook, and how to set the privacy so only certain groups of people can see it. That's already in the engine. Okay. Most people don't understand or are confused or don't trust it. Trust is another problem in this new world, that you don't trust Mark Zuckerberg to keep that private thing private all the time, because he changes what the engine does. They're tuning the engine as we're tuning the engine, as we're participating in it. And so there's lots of issues that are going to be worked out.
All right. It's going to be worked out is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
If I'm in your office and you're a psychiatrist, you're telling me, don't worry about it.
Well, worry about it and learn how the engine works.
Okay, that's a better answer.
And learn how to tune it up and tune it down. And then, you know,
Now we got helicopters coming in. Stay down.
Because Obama's going down the freeway.
Yeah, in case you haven't picked up the references, Obama's in town today, and all the traffic and everything's a mess. So if he's probably going to drop in a little later just for a quick interview. But
no, so the deeper question is, can we change our behavior or whatnot? And that's part of this, right?
That's scary. Rob Reeves Photog says, should we be scared?
You should always be scared. You should be scared. All technology has good and bad. For instance, cars. Cars kill about 37,000 people in the United States a year. Kill, not sort of get you fired from your job or cause problems at home like Facebook does. Kill. Yet we drive every day. Why? Because we have figured out, oh, there's a reward to using this new technology along with the risk. And there is going to be risks and rewards to using the Google glasses.
We'll go back to the Google glasses when we get to the gadgets that are here before us, which I know a lot of the folks at home are excited to see. Yeah. We will talk about that. And right now, if we can go to a question from the audience. I knew you guys, you were firing them off early to us before we came on the show. So who would like to ask Robert a question? I expect to see a hand at the back. It's Kelly Smith. Nice to see you, Kelly. How's all your stuff going? Kelly's an amazing entrepreneur here in Seattle. Thanks for tuning in with us, buddy. What's your question? We got to get him a microphone. Boom. Kelly, what's your question, bud?
So Robert, one of the things I think is interesting, you are both a self-proclaimed geek, but also a creative. And when I think back, 15 years in this business, you sort of had engineers and you had creatives, but you tended to not have both. And now there's this term going around called the unicorn, which you've heard in the Valley many times. Sort of that person who's both technical and creative. Are you seeing in the Valley sort of an increasing trend towards product people or creative people who are also creative, either in terms of companies that are going to be more successful or where investors like to put their money?
Absolutely. The best companies like Path or Flipboard have a very heavy creative side to them. We saw this in the video game industry, right? If you go back to that first flight simulator, the first flight simulator was written by a guy who really understood code and understood the compiler and understood the processor and understood what he could do graphically. And it was a bunch of lines, as you were flying around flight simulator.
The airport was always confusing.
As the industry progressed, the flight simulator team hired more artists than they hired coders, because the differentiator was was having clouds that looked like clouds rather than just a line, and having ground that looked like ground instead of just a series of grids, right?
Got it. And
Halo is a great example. That was developed here in Seattle, and when you walked around that building, which is an old hardware company over here in Kirkland, most of that team is creatives.
Right.
So, some of their team is coders, but most of the team is creatives.
I love the question. I love your answer. But I have to add something. That for the folks at home, you should be listening, because this is you were told your whole life that if you were going to be great at something, you had to focus on one thing. I was told that coming up. I did it at the beginning of my career, but now, I call myself a photographer, but I also know that I'm interested in and moved by things that are not just photographic. The image will always be at the core of what I'm interested in as a visual artist, but this other context stuff, it's not just how wildly creative can you be with your one medium, it's how wildly creative can you be with sharing, how wildly creative can you be with your brand, with the way you share your stuff, with the way you make your stuff, not just the idea, the concept, but the actual mechanisms of making it.
Yeah, I've had some extraordinary experiences. One of them was sitting in Ansel Adams' sink with his son. And his son was teaching me that Ansel Adams, even with a black and white view camera, was an innovator with technology. He had a tripod that let him do panoramic photography for Kodak, and his photography was used in advertising context. Most people didn't even know that Ansel Adams did these big panoramic photos for Penn Station and for Times Square. And then you go and visit his darkroom, and he had a really high-tech darkroom that was the equivalent of Photoshop. He had a grid of lights on the back of this.
Right. So this is Ansel Adams being an innovator. So if the message, again, we're trying to give it to the folks at home and the folks in the audience, it's that there is room to innovate at almost every turn. And I think discovering those things, let's talk for just a second about Seth Godin's latest book. In Seth's latest book, he talks about, it's generally a business book, because that's what Seth writes about, but he calls all of the folks in that book, the people he refers to, the hims and hers, as artists.
Yep.
Now, if an artist, are you pissed off at that some spreadsheet geek is an artist? I think you should check yourself, because there is creativity in business. You shouldn't have creativity in accounting.
I mean,
but there's creativity everywhere, and ironically, that's one of the reasons I am a co-founder of a company called Creative Live, which is a worldwide education. It shoots very, very near here, and creative is like, we don't really see a limit to the word creative, and neither should you.
I'm showing you the new version of Google Plus on the iPad, and watch how things fly in from the bottom, right? Is the kid who wrote that in code, is that an artist? I think so. That's magic, and it's cool. Somebody thought about how to fly these tiles in and how to code that so that it would fly in and stop at the right rate. That's both artistry and code. It's mixed. It's a mixture.
I love it, and that is the future. So again, I was told to only do one thing, and I found that I got the most out of my career when I did things besides just took pictures. Developed an iPhone app, like traveled with an iPhone and took pictures and shared them. And I think that is, if I'm not mistaken, and that goes back to the context thing, that is a large part of the future. It's like the best generalists are winning. And there's a huge cross-section of people on the internet that are saying, oh, this dude's photos suck, or this one's not as good as it should be, and it's why does it have 10 million likes? Because there's context around that picture.
Yeah.
We're going back to the studio audience here. That was a great question, Kelly, and thank you, Robert, for your answer. Adam, right here in the front row. It's cool that I know some of these people in the audience. It was nice we had a little meet and greet before. I know these guys. Adam, you got the microphone.
Yeah,
I think you got the camera on you. Fire away.
So thanks for coming to Seattle. I'm interested to note that in this whole discussion of what's new and cool in creativity and technology, the companies, the big companies that you're talking about are Facebook, Google, and explicitly not some of our hometown heroes.
We could get to Amazon. I spent a lot of time with some Microsoft people in the last couple of days.
Well, so that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, what do you think? What do you think the big guys here, like Microsoft, and we have a big Adobe office, and Amazon too, I suppose. What do they need to do to be more a part of the conversation, and what can they do to recover some of the luster that used to be associated with their brands in the context of technology and creativity?
Well, Amazon, I mean, we can talk about Amazon. Amazon's a competitor of mine, so I should disclose that. But they only compete with me at a small level. Amazon is like, I call these things Death Stars, data Death Stars, because like Facebook is gathering my likes. Every day I put a couple more likes into the Death Star, or into this engine on the table. Amazon has another engine. It understands what I buy.
I like their recommendation engine. I have to say, it's one of the best in the world.
This is a step to the context world where, hey, we're having an experience. Here's other experiences that are like this that you might like. This world is going to understand us at a very deep level in the next 5-10 years, right? And it's heading that way very
absolutely.
quickly.
And I actually, to dovetail on that, you want some water?
No, I just want to try to answer the question.
Okay, go for it. I have something I want to say too, but you say it. Go ahead.
So, as a journalist, I think in my head are some battlefronts, and they're informed by hanging out with like Mark Andreessen, or with the people at Kleiner Perkins, or hell, interviewing Doug Engelbart, the guy who invented the mouse. He told me about the future, even though he's 83 years old now, he still is dreaming about where we're going in a world where there's self-driving cars and there's lots of mobile devices, and that's sort of what my book is about. That we're working on is these trends that are happening: sensors, social, massive databases. Big data is a huge trend. I mean, GigaOM has every headline lately is big data, big data, big data. Why? Because there's something happening there.
Right.
There's new databases coming out. Just today, Meteor, got funded $12 million by Andreessen, right? That's a new kind of database that does real-time data for, let's say, these Google Glasses. Because as I walk around the world and I have 20 or 50 or 100 sensors on me, it's going to feed that data in real time up to the server. And we need new database technologies to deal with that.
Yeah.
And keep us informed about what those sensors are teaching us individually and each other. Right.
Hey, Josiah, you need to be paying attention. I got a data guy here.
So if you talk about the worldwide conversation, there's a context to it that's informed by what is happening in markets, what's happening in R&D labs. Like, this is why I love going to Microsoft Research and talking to Andy Wilson, who's one of the brightest people I've ever met. And he showed me touch computing 8 years ago, right? And today he has a room you walk in, by the way, and he has projectors shining on every inch of that room. So every inch of your skin is a data surface.
Touch it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And by the way, in his room, when you touch somebody, it passed, if I touched you in his room, it passed my business card to you.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Ooh, I feel dirty. I feel dirty.
And so this is where, I mean, people who love the future go to the places like this. You know, I went to IBM's research lab. They're doing new battery research. Why are they doing new battery research? Because they know in 2020 every car is going to be electric. Therefore, they need a battery that lasts 600 to 1,000 miles, not 300 like the Tesla does today.
Which is,
you know, they let me move a piece of an atom, a single iron atom across a piece of copper. Why are they doing that? To try to find new ways to stack atoms for storage devices.
Not that atom.
Not that atom.
Atom.
Atoms. So because right now it takes 384,000 atoms to store a bit of data, and they want to find out ways to make it 100,000.
Okay, you're losing me. We're just creative people here.
This all matters to photographers because we need the trends to know what's coming in the next camera.
And we're about to get to that. We're not far away now.
But back to, how does Amazon and Microsoft get involved in this conversation?
They are.
They're trying. And Microsoft is struggling.
Got it.
They need to get ahead of the market and produce product and experiences that take advantage of these trends. And Microsoft, for the last 6 years since I left Microsoft, has not done all that much. Now, one thing they did was Microsoft Connect, and there's a whole startup incubator here in town, done by Techstars. I visited it yesterday. Mind-blowing stuff for photographers and creatives. They can use a Connect sensor, a $200 sensor, to build a 3D model of your body.
I don't think you want that model.
Well, you want that model because
so I can have a nice new suit.
No, you want that model because it can measure your pant size within a 1/4 inch, and now you can go to Levi's.com or something like that and buy pants or try on new pants and see how they look on you. That's personalized, very contextual data.
That is pretty fancy. I also like this idea of bigger companies getting involved. I think that there's a whole host of them. I think some are doing, you know, great. We've talked about Apple and gosh,
Microsoft, Google.
Microsoft, Google.
Facebook,
these folks that are doing
Oracle.
that are doing a great job. There's some that are doing not such a great job. Ironically, there's some in the creative space that are struggling. You know, in disclosure, HP, for example, is a supporter of what it is that we're doing here on the show. I think they're doing a great job of bridging, for example, print. Like, print is still incredibly relevant. We think, oh, print's not relevant. I want to get my newspaper here. Yeah, but you know, we did this great experiment where we took all the printed matter out of a town, and it crumbled. But that's an experiment, and HP's, for example, is studying it. So some of these companies, big, small, left, right, they're a part of the conversation. Some of them aren't. But I think that there's this great funnel that they're all rushing through, and there's not enough room for everybody. And so it's a great battle, and we'll see who comes out the other side. I have my personal favorites in the race, but I'm doubling down right now. Another question from the internets. Yep. So do creatives, this is from @4BI, so do creatives need to embrace the tech side to even be competitive in their markets? I have a one-word answer.
Yes.
It's yes. And there are agents out there who do an incredibly good job. They're very deft at finding a way to plug you and your art in. However, what I'm noticing is most of those agents are coming to me when we have these conversations, because I've always got a conversation going on with half a dozen agents in different verticals, for example, and what they're seeking is connectivity to this technical world, because they see it evolving, and they have not had to be. They were just pitching like, you know, this person's a great actor, and now it's this person's a great actor, and they have 8 million Twitter followers, and like literally those are the conversations that I'm hearing about who's getting Hollywood movies and who's not. Yeah. I mean, there are certain exceptions of people that are just like beyond superstars, but the number of those folks is small, and the number of everybody else is very, very, very large. So for BI, like it or not, yeah, you need to have some context built around your art, built around your creativity. Otherwise, you're going to slowly become steamrolled. Should we get to the gadgets? I got one other question here. Like, I'm going to pass on that question. You out there in the studio audience, I would love it if you would come up with another couple of questions so that when I come back to you, you'll have it. If you're just now tuning in, I'm Chase Jarvis. We're here at Chase Jarvis Live. I'm a photographer and a director, but once a month I sit down with a super smart person, and this month it's Robert Scoble.
Who told you that?
Tech geek superstar, world traveler for Rackspace, and gets to go on and interview all of these tech leaders and startups to find out what's hot. So, speaking of what's hot, a lot of the folks in the audience are the culturally curious, creative types, specifically a lot of photographers. We have here a range of stuff that I think we need to talk about. Not necessarily, there's nothing here that's absolutely from the future, but there's some stuff that's pretty close. And just generally speaking, over here is, this is like the Nikon D4 and 800. There's the new Canon, and on the far right over here, we have...
Do you have the new mirrorless Canon?
Do we have the new mirrorless Canon in the house? We got a bunch of stuff
in
the house.
When I got together with a bunch of photographers in Yosemite on January 1st, the big dinner conversation was about, are we going to buy a DSLR or a mirrorless camera? Partly because some of the photographers are doing the high dynamic range photography, which means they have to shoot 9 images.
Right.
Well, having a mirror slap up and down 9 times doesn't make sense anymore in this world. You want to capture 9 images as fast as possible so that you don't get those artifacts in the clouds and people moving on the ground, right? Mm-hmm. What are you seeing happen in this mirrorless camera? Is this the trend?
Yeah, I will. So, yeah, there's a range of camera types here if we're talking specifically about camera. And my personal favorite cameras right now are mirrorless cameras. Number one, because the image between that and a Pro DSLR, they're
coming closer.
Yeah, they're coming closer. You know, the Pro DSLRs and this, the medium format stuff is still running away, but the numbers of those are getting smaller. There's still some great brands that'll always make great stuff that'll get, the Hasselblads, for example, of the world. They'll all be very popular for a long time. Yeah. But the difference between here and here, for example, or here and here, this is the NEX7 from Sony, is very, very close. They both shoot 1080 video. They both shoot, I mean, this thing is like, I don't know.
It's smaller. Yeah, see how much faster it is? Because it doesn't have a mirror slapping up and down.
Pretty fast, right?
So if you do 9 images on that, you can take 9 images in a shorter period of time than you can on a DSLR, and it makes less noise and it gives you a sharper image, not because of the pixel count, but because there's nothing slapping that camera and moving that camera in there, right?
Sounds a lot like, this is much more expensive. This is the Nikon D4. Big shout out to Glazer's Camera, glazerscamera.com here in Seattle for providing us with some of these toys and treats. Much appreciated, you all out there. Thank you. So yeah, like you're saying, so I'm personally enamored, in love with the Micro Four Thirds format. Now, are these things dinosaurs?
I just bought a $3,500 Canon Mark III, and
this is the 5D
It
Mark
still
III.
does provide a better image, but I didn't bring it to Seattle, right? I can only carry one camera, and I decided, hey, I'm going to interview startups, so I always carry this thing. And I sometimes carry my 5D. I love your camera app on the iPhone because of that. It was the best camera. The best camera is always in your pocket.
Yep.
So I'm looking at the mirrorless cameras as a way to augment my video with a good still image and be more carryable.
Yeah, these images, so these.
I don't have a gang of workers like you do to carry all my equipment around.
Well, the gang's getting smaller because the equipment is getting smaller,
Yeah.
And this sort of camera, this Micro Four Thirds, for example, again, this is the Sony NEX7, But same thing with the Panasonics or with the Canons or the Nikons. If you put a pancake lens on this thing, it's still get great optics, and it's this big, you know? So it's like jewelry almost. Yeah, how about it? But so let's migrate if we can, unless you want to comment on that anymore.
No, but you can sort of see the trend line in the industry.
Yeah, here's a GoPro.
And where hasn't the Canons or Nikons or Pentexes, the Canons and Pentexes and Nikons have not added enough sensors. My 5D Mark III, it's a $3,500 camera. It does not have a GPS built into it.
Yeah, that's one thing. If I was going to have a gripe, and I have plenty of gripes. One of the I consider it a luxury to get to sit in these closed-door meetings with a lot of the manufacturers, you know, here and abroad, and get to see and smell and participate in what's coming next. And I've been asking a lot of the manufacturers, the older legacy carriers, if you're talking about airlines, for example, for these ideas, for the idea to be able to share images immediately. So this superior image quality down here, but is there a wireless network built in here? Is there an app? Is there an interface where I can add filters and share that image to my Facebook?
You can add it on from iFi, but why do you have to add it on? You know,
it's true, and you know, it's been a source of pain for me for a long time. And you know, these are the cameras that I use to make pro quality shots. But are their days numbered? Because, you know, for example, even a few years ago, I did one of the first live where I was shooting and tweeting at the same time in a campaign for SanDisk down in New Zealand. And that is going to become, that's again the context. Oh, I remember when Chase shot this campaign because I watched it live. I watched it happening, unfolding. I was seeing the behind the scenes frames coming off his camera. We want that, you know, the Canons, the Nikons of the world, and can they produce it? You should tweet right now and tell people what it is you're doing.
You know, I have a couple camera apps that do things. I have an app called Glimpse.
Okay.
That takes permanent, if I was aiming my camera and I had Glimpse running, it takes 30 seconds of video constantly. So when I take a picture, it also grabs the last 10 seconds of video. And
oh, so like you were talking about this last night. This is like you're chasing your kid around, and your kid's being funny, and then they turn around and they get a snap. You get the snap, then you got the moment.
The act of photography isn't about capturing pixels. It's about capturing a moment and emotion. That's context. That's multi-sensor, and add in the social. When I take a picture of you here, why didn't I capture everybody in the room on Facebook? Because everybody's tweeting right now with a hashtag, right? Why didn't it include all that in the photo? So that I could see the context of the photo, the emotion that this photo was built upon.
Yeah, that is the future for image capture. Honestly, it's you get to know who was nearby, what devices were they using, how many Twitter followers, what were they sharing, what temperature was it, what was the heart rate of the photographer, what was the heart rate of the model. And if you think that's weird, that's just the beginning. That's the next like 5, 10 years.
And that's the trend. The reason we had this conversation about mirrorless isn't because it's smaller or cheaper, although that's nice, but it's not. That's not where it's going. It's about capturing emotion. And these new mirrorless cameras can have more and more sensors put in them and more hookups to the things that are happening around our world. They can capture video and stills at the same time.
Yeah.
Because there's no mirror in the way, right?
Well, I mean, even when
doing video on a 5D means moving the mirror up, letting the light into the sensor, right?
Yep.
These don't have that problem. They can capture both photo and video at the same time. So now it can do some of the newer ways of capturing imagery.
Why are the legacy players in the game so far behind? And can they catch up?
I think they will catch up eventually. I mean, innovators like GoPro are going to come out of the woodwork that will do a new kind of camera. Or your cell phone is just going to take over a certain kind of photography, because well, you saw the new Nokia camera coming out on the next cell phones from Nokia. It has like a 20-something or 40 megapixel camera, and the image quality is stunning.
Yeah.
But now it also captures all of the sensor data. You know, it captures the gyroscope, the compass, the audio, right? Why didn't it capture the audio in the room when I shot the picture, the last 20 seconds of audio? That's part of the photo.
I get it, and that's really the future. All these things are part of the image. The image is greater than the image. So we talked about these guys they're not going to go away. They're not going to roll over quietly. But we want more from them. So if you're listening, and I hope you are, give us what we've been asking for. Not a la like what the folks at GoPro have been doing.
Well, GoPro, I have a 3D housing for my GoPros. I don't need to use that for 3D. One camera can be shooting a still image every 20 seconds, and one camera can be shooting 30 frame a second, 1080p video. And that's awesome. So you hang that on a surfer or somebody, and now you get great still photos at high resolution, and you get great video all on 2 cameras off of it.
And if you folks in the audience think that the GoPro doesn't apply to you because it's a helmet cam for skiers and snowboarders, you're wrong, right? Yeah. I mean, look at the package that this thing comes in. Yes, it's a device that's separate from our iPhones, but now we've got remotes. I don't know how many of you out there have seen the videos that these guys are putting out. You get a remote, you can trigger like 50 cameras, 37 cameras or something with a remote. Yeah. So you put these things all over the room, and we're starting to build this sort of like a 3D environment of a camera that, what do these things cost? They're like $300 bucks.
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of difference there. Remotes, and they also have little monitors.
And even these are behind the times now.
Yeah, well, I know if you talk to anybody at GoPro, and I've got some friends down there, these guys are great. They're like, this is what we want to do next, and next, and next, and next. They're not sitting still.
Well, they have a competitor called Contour.
Yeah, they're based here in Seattle as well.
Everybody cool is in Seattle. I got to come up here more.
Hey, can we give a shout out to Seattle just for a second? Representing the 206, baby. Love you, Seattle.
But Contour had Wi-Fi connectivity before GoPro, and Contour's next camera is going to add some of these sensors, these contextual information. They're going to be more wearable. This heads into the Google Glasses. I mean, the first thing that
we tried to get the Google Glasses, and they were occupied, so we figured we'd both just wear glasses. He had glasses. This is the only glasses. I'm not trying to be cool right now. So imagine we have glasses on, the Google Glasses, and I'm seeing you right now, and I'm recording you. Yep. I'm recording the audience, I'm recording the show, it's just another perspective. Imagine when this is embedded in a football player's helmet and you're seeing their perspective and it's beaming wirelessly, because that's what this does, right? Back to the camera, so you're seeing what the quarterback sees when they throw that touchdown pass. So you and I are just going to go about living life with these glasses on.
Yep.
Ethical problems there?
Yeah.
You think?
Legal.
Bathroom problems?
Yep. Yep. Because you can be recording full time. Hey, what's up? And you don't know that they're recording. And it'll be interesting to see if Google adds a little red LED so that when I do turn on the record feature, that everybody else knows it. But you know, every hacker in the world knows how to turn that stuff off.
Right.
So,
are there going to be new companies that come up to sort of protect us from this stuff? Is this the new virus? What is the? I mean, I'm in favor of, you know, I've been experimenting with wearable cameras and putting cameras in places that they shouldn't necessarily be, not illegally, but like putting cameras on the undersides of cars. Cameras historically didn't live there because they were expensive and hard to get there, and you couldn't get the footage that you wanted. Now you can. Yeah. So. What sort of...
Yeah, we all saw Ken Block's video as he raced through San Francisco, and he had GoPros on the shocks. Yeah. You know, and he had an array of, I don't know, 50 GoPros, so as he came over that hill and jumped off over the hill, they did the bullet time.
Yep.
That was 50 GoPros that you computer generated, went through, you know, 50 of these, grid of these GoPros. Really cool stuff.
Very cool stuff.
I wish I could afford 50 GoPros.
So what about these glasses though?
We're going to have a new social contract. We're going to have, hey man, can you take off your glasses? Or I'm going to wear my glasses and I'm going to shoot you too, and therefore we're going to have mutually assured destruction. And we're not going to, if you post my video of my penis up on the internet, I'm going to post my video of your penis up on the internet, right? And
you heard it here, folks. I think that might get retweeted. I don't know. I'm just a guess. No, we don't want that retweeted.
We're going to end up with some sort of new social rules about what's acceptable with glasses on, and we're going to have to go through a period of friction because there's going to be lots of people who don't have these glasses and get uncomfortable. Supposedly, one of the researchers got beat up in Paris, or had his glasses ripped off his skull, right? And there's in a McDonald's. So there's already problems. There's already frictions between people who are wearing wearable computing and people who don't like that.
Dangerous.
It's going to be dangerous, and we're going to end up with a new ethical context. We already have this, but you know, as part of my journalism degree, I had to study media law, right? When was it okay to take a picture? When was it not?
Right.
You know,
without getting into the weeds on that, I think that's always, like, there's still a lot of misinformation. So with this new era,
oh
yeah, you're having some problems with your
Sorry?
mic, it sounds like.
Oh, awesome.
All right, you look great with that mic. You're
nice
natural.
mic, man. Sennheisers,
Yeah,
or
and
something.
the bombs. But the idea of the social contract continuing to evolve is definitely present. It has to, because the technology is moving faster than the law can, for example. We got a question.
Well, we're going to have legal issues about expectation of privacy. You know, it was clear in the old world where if you were in a bedroom with the drapes closed and somebody videoed you there, you had an expectation of privacy. If you're in the public street, you don't have an expectation of privacy, so I can take a picture of you there and you can't say anything about it. You could argue with me, you could punch me in the nose, and then I'd you know, take you to court for punching me in the nose. But legally, it's okay in a public street to take a picture of somebody. In a bedroom, no, because there's an expectation. And we're going to have some of these corner cases, like in a bathroom. Did we really have expectation of privacy or not? I don't know. You know.
So for those of you who have concerns about this and you're listening online, we're taking your questions at #CJLive. And if you're interested in competing for that Broncolor Senso pack, we're giving away a $3,500 lighting kit that has a pack, it has a softbox, and I don't know, a handful of other things that are beautiful for creating light. Actually, you've experienced this. Remember, we shot your picture with one of these packs. Great kit. And the way to win that kit is by tweeting quote that what you hear from us here on the stage at Braun Imaging and the link to this here page, and we'll be giving that away in under 25 minutes when the show wraps up. So it's your chance to comment, share it, and if you do have questions, we're looking at the internet right now, picking them off at #CJLive, and I'm going to go to the phones. At @firsthouse_Roy says, are we going to see a major change in lenses with mirrorless bodies? Could this affect how we invest in lenses? Yes, because they're cheaper.
They're smaller. You can, when you grind glass in a smaller size, it's cheaper, right?
Yep.
You have some of these 300-2.8 lenses. Right. They're $8,000, but the piece of fluoride on the front is huge.
Yep.
You know, or the lenses are really big, and it costs a lot of money to make a lens perfect this big. You can make a lens perfect that is this big. Much easier.
Yes, it's changing very quickly. And Lights and Photo asks, what are the new developments for camera sensors? We kind of went through those. The sensors, I think, are getting smaller. They're getting better. They're getting more numerous.
Well, we're seeing new kinds of cameras like the Lytro. Did the Lytro ever show up?
The Lytro was supposed to be here. It was supposed to be here on an 8 a.m. FedEx, and I'm not sure it ever did, but that's a great thing for us to talk about. At the far end of the spectrum here, we're talking about, if, you know, not necessarily the past, but these guys are like need to be working harder on reinvention. They're listening. They're doing a great job here with the remote stuff. And then the Lytro should be probably over here somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And right now, it's not, I mean, I would say it's more of a prototype right now. It's sort of making a conceptual statement. And for the folks out home who don't know what it is a camera that allows you to take a picture and everything's in focus, or rather, you get to pick what's in focus after the fact.
It's deeper than that.
It's much deeper than that. I'm trying to simplify it for myself, for the people here.
It's capturing all the rays of light in all of their permutations into the sensor. On top of the sensor is a little micro array of lenses. And those lenses bend the light to hit different pixels. So there's, instead of having light hit 1 pixel, it hits 1 of 32 pixels or something like that. And then the computer, by turning on one of those 32 pixels, can change the focus, can change the photo into a 3D photo, can change it into a number of different things. It can have all pixels in focus.
Right, so as an example, I could take a picture with my Lytro camera, and all of you can be in focus all the way back to our sound guys and the engineers and stuff running the broadcast. Later, because I captured this in sort of a raw state, later I can go forward and say, I only want the front row, the very handsome front row, to be in focus, and I want everybody else to be out of focus. Now, right now, that camera costs, it comes in a package like this big.
400 or 500, depending on how much storage.
400 or 500 bucks.
Yeah.
So, if they were here, I would probably ask them if they think this is now or if this is the future. My guess is that they're saying that's the future. So pretty soon, these cameras will be able to have that technology embedded in them such that focus, which is a major problem for photography, right? It's a major creative decision, what's going to be in focus or not. You got the bokeh. That is going to be built into the raw image, where not only now we've got a raw image you can scale and like, I want to change my exposure and fudge this a little bit. Now you're doing the same thing with focus.
Well, focus and parallax. Instead of the focus, I don't care about that on a lot of photos, but I might want to move around you a little bit. You can do that with the Lytro too.
This is my good side. So.
All right, good. And so it's capturing more context about the image. It's not just capturing a flat row of pixels. It's capturing something else, and that's exciting. It's not high resolution right now, and that's the downside of it.
It's only 1 megapixel camera, right?
Well, because it's turning a 5 megapixel sensor into a 1 megapixel sensor, because it's putting these lenses on top of it and then doing a lot of math behind. Well, do you know why this camera was developed?
It was at Stanford, I know that.
It was at Stanford, and it was actually a government project to come up to a bush with an array of cameras that looked like these little GoPros and see through the bush. Little crazy. But the government funds all sorts of funny stuff like that. But that's where the research came out of, because they needed to have a grid of 50 cameras or whatnot. I have pictures up on Flickr of this grid of cameras that you would walk up to a bush with. And then the math would pick which camera could see through the bush a little piece, and this camera could see a little, and it would build a picture out of this grid of cameras.
My mind is starting to wiggle a little bit. It's getting sufficiently blown. I'd like to, we've got some questions out in the studio audience. We got a couple hands up. We should probably go to them. And remember, if you're just tuning in, I'm Chase Jarvis. We're here on CJ Live with my good friend Robert Scoble, talking about the future of tech. If you have questions, fire them off via the Twitter, and we will try and ask them specifically about, like, give me some concrete questions that you want to know concrete answers to. We'll get to that at the last 20 minutes of the show here. So now out to the audience. I saw, yes sir, you right in the middle with your hand near your collarbone.
Can you talk about the future of the app, and can little guys make money off it, or is it just yet to be bought by a big Facebook for $1 billion?
The future of the app?
Yes.
Well, you heard about Instagram, right?
Yeah, $1 billion, little billion. I think it's interesting to me on a couple of different planes. The first one is that I'm putting together a talk that I'm going to be delivering in the not too distant future. I've already talked about context, but I feel like there's something happening specifically in the photography industry. There's like the middle is sort of falling out. The high-end stuff will always be there. The low-end stuff there are a lot more opportunities for people to make money. So compare that to the software industry. It used to be Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, the HPs, all of the other major manufacturers of this equipment, this stuff. And now those guys are still around because they're multi-billion-dollar companies that aren't going anywhere. But this new possibility has sprung up, which is I'm calling it low end, although it's swimming upstream very quickly, to make incremental money. So when you used to buy Photoshop, it was $1,000.
Yep.
And now Photoshop Touch is $9.
Yep.
So they're playing at both ends of the spectrum, but this bottom end of the spectrum, and I'm not saying bottom to be diminutive or anything like that, but there's huge opportunity there, just like stock photography was a long time ago when you could play at both the high end and the iStock photo.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money and a lot of innovation happening in apps. You talk about it.
Well, who has Lytro Bike Clone on their iPhones? A few people. Can you pull that out and start shooting video of us? So Viclone is this app that came out last Thursday, I think, that lets you shoot video from multiple
Amazing
iPhones.
app.
Infinite number of, so people in the audience, you could turn on, I could turn on. It uploads that to the cloud. It mixes it all together, and then it automatically chooses the camera angle and spits back a video automatically to you to watch. That was developed by all of us together. So your camera crew should be all freaked out, because in the future you might not have a camera crew, you might just have iPhones on your cameras, and Viclone could be automatically switching between their cameras, and the switcher that you're paying in the back of the room could go away, the camera could go away, and the camera guy could go away.
Right.
But anyways, I'm gonna shoot some video and we're gonna put this up on online.
Sweet. Well, we're here on Chase Jarvis Live experimenting with Viclone, which is VY clone. And we've got a handful of people in the audience shooting this right now, and then that'll all get stuck together for some good video. Hi, Adam.
And we can go for a minute. Now, this app costs about $300,000 to develop. It was developed by a couple people. And Instagram, same thing. It was developed by 2 kids sitting at a picnic table at a startup incubator in San Francisco. The picnic table cost $500 a month to rent, and they had $1 million of investment in the early days. 2 kids.
Yep.
And they built a company that in 2 years was worth $1 billion.
So does that answer your question about apps? Like honestly, I think it's a great question, but don't just apply that question to the app world. Apply it to almost everything, because as these tools become more and more democratized, the advantage that the individuals will have against the machine grow. So the machine, if I'm going to talk about the man or big companies, they are struggling. They don't have it built into their infrastructure, into their DNA, to be able to move as quickly as 2 guys at a picnic table, 2 gals at a picnic table.
Yeah.
So there are opportunities there to make huge steps, make great money, to change the world. So think about that in the context of photography as well. So you don't have to take 30 people to New Zealand for a month to make 3 pictures for an ad campaign. If you've got this amazing feed that 1 million people pay attention to or more, you're going to have larger media reach than a lot of the clients that would have previously hired you. That is an advantage for the little guy and gal.
So I mentioned Viclone because they're studying the context of our phone. They're using the audio sensor to decide which camera to switch between. And they're looking at some basic image processing techniques. Mm-hmm. In the future, they're going to look at the compass of the camera, because if we're all
which everything's pointing at and all that. Right.
If we're all at I don't know what kind of band would we see? What's your favorite band?
We would see Rain Wolf, which is a guy coming out of Seattle. You should pay attention to.
All right. If we're all at Rain Wolf and I'm in the cheap seats, you're in the front row because you're a VIP, and you're shooting Rain Wolf, and I'm shooting Rain Wolf, and everybody else is shooting Rain Wolf. All of our cameras are aimed at the same point. The computer can see that really easily. The computer knows that. And now it can switch between wide shot, close shot, medium shot. If one of us drops our camera because we're drunk and sitting in the front row getting...
Would never be me.
Never get you. It could switch off because the accelerometer would know that that camera is no longer aiming at what everybody wants to see.
Okay, you're starting to trip me out. This is good. This is good. You got your question asking about apps. There's another question out there, and that was Mr. Josiah Johnson at a little company that is radical in data analysis called Society Consulting.
Thank you. Hi, Robert. I mean, you have an amazing job. You're like the Anthony Bourdain for tech, maybe with less F-bombs. And you talked about, for creatives, one of the big things is access. Can you talk a little bit about kind of social ranking with things like clout and how important that is going to be for creatives?
Yeah. Oh, clout. We all love to hate clout and hate to love clout. Yeah. Yeah. And so what clout is doing, it's one of a set of scores that's going to be coming about us, sort of like a credit score. The clout studies our popularity, so how many people are listening to us. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a bigger audience than you, so my clout score is higher. It also looks at our activity. So if you're putting more tweets and more photos and more things on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc., your clout score is going to go up compared to mine. So when I go on vacation, my clout score starts going down. So it's measuring those two things together. Soon, it's going to actually bring in real-world references. So if you're always in the press, mm-hmm. even though I have more followers, your numbers are going to start going up, because it's going to start measuring real-world influence. They're trying to get in on what is popularity, what is influence, and what actually causes action among our audiences. How many times you get retweeted.
Right, but there's something that is additional to that, is that you're going to start to get rewarded for those things. So you're going to get cheaper hotel rooms, cheaper flights, because the presumption is that when you're on these flights, you'll be talking about being on the flight of the great service, and that will start to be woved into the context of our daily lives.
I don't even think it's about price anymore. I was at one of the famous wineries in Napa the other day, and I was hanging out with the VP of PR. My clout score probably got me that experience. Next to me was Chris Noth, famous actor. He was getting a private tour from the president. So that tells you the pecking order in life, right?
Got it.
But everybody is going to, and we talked about this with the head of PR, because I'm thinking about how customer service is going to change with Google Glasses on. everybody's going to be shuffled into a special magical experience that might not even include a discount. For instance, if you're walking toward that winery, he can say, hey, we know you're on the 1 o'clock tour because you signed up for it, but we know you're an Instagram guy. We're going to bring you on a special Instagram tour because we know you care about photography. And he's already doing this. Right.
Yeah.
They're already giving tours to Instagram people, and he'll point out things that are visual. Like in one wall, they had a hand-painted wall. There's little things that he pointed out to me to take pictures of. That adds into the brand extension of the winery.
Josiah's tripping out right now.
Right?
But so does that, you feel like you get your question answered there, Josiah?
Yeah, definitely. And I think also too, I mean, how does it affect like Chase Jarvis, his clout score? I mean, is he going to get, more followers or...
Put that thing closer to your face.
Sorry.
So people at home can
Are you
hear
going to get more followers? And like, for the up and coming photographer, does he need to improve his score to be able to, share and be more social?
I don't look at it as followers because most people in life don't really care how many followers they have. They care about the experiences they're going to have in life. And so these Google Glasses, as I'm walking around, are going to affect what comes to me, And we're going to quickly figure out what comes to me is affected by our friends.
Yeah.
It already is. This app coming out tomorrow is, my photos are going to be hooked in with Chase because he's a friend of mine on Facebook. So if I care about that, I'm going to change my behavior and start hanging out with Chase and coming to his shows.
But no, it's beautiful. And I think for the folks at home, like this is the future. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to participate in it. You can opt out. But it's going to be more of an opt-out than an opt-in. Like historically, you had to opt into an email list. Now you're going to have to opt out of. You're going to say, "Stop recording me with your glasses, dude."
But last night we were talking about whiskey, right, at the bar, and
Go figure.
Nick, my friend Nick, was like, he quickly figured out I like whiskey, so he was very willing to buy me an expensive whiskey because he knew I would enjoy it. My wife, on the other hand, hates whiskey. If you bought her the most expensive, most cool whiskey in the world, she would hate it, and she wouldn't appreciate it.
Right.
So let's say you're that winery again. On Facebook, I've told Facebook what wineries I like, what wine I've had. And now that winery, when I walk in the door, it's going to go, oh, he's already been to this winery, this winery, this winery. He likes this wine. He likes Cabernet. So don't show him, don't even bring him the white wines. Let's go straight to the cab room. And he can augment my experience, not based on who my clout score is, not based on how popular I am, but just that he knows the things in life that I like. And he can guide me into a group of Cabernet tour now. Right? Instead of putting me on the white wine tour where I'm not going to be all that happy about it.
You'd be happy on any wine tour. I know you too well.
Well, I'm open to all experiences, but there's certain experiences that are going to be based on our Facebook behaviors and our Twitter behaviors. A new TV guide is coming out next month. The TV guide starts with what you've liked on Facebook. So I've liked CSI and I've liked American Idol, I'll tell you that. I like banal TV, just as much as anybody else, but it already knows that. And so it will put those things at the top. Then it goes out to my friends' likes on Facebook. So everybody on Facebook, how many people watch Mad Men?
Oh yeah, love Mad Men, respect.
Right. So right there, a few hands. You're gonna affect my TV guide, because you're my friends or friends of friends, and you're going to affect what I see on TV guides. So now I have to watch Mad Men because all of you are watching it, and you're changing my TV guide.
And the way that translates back to the photo entrepreneur, for example, the video maker, the filmmaker, the creative, is that you'll start to see verticals pop up. You'll start to have, if you feel like people are getting together now, wait till all of your likes and your friends' likes are collaborated and you are funneled into the same thing where you can all get together and make something more interesting. So right now, it's like, what is it, a large net loosely woven or something like that?
Yeah.
That's going to continue to get tighter over time. So the days of being a sort of an artist who's locked in their basement or their parents' basement, even worse, making stuff, you can still do that, and that you should feel good about making it for the sake of making it for yourself. I can't tell you how to feel, of course, but for those of you who are stuck in that mode but want something different, want to be able to do that for a living, because that's not going to enable a living, right? Doing photography in your parents' basement. That doesn't get out there anymore. But if you're willing to share that stuff, like it is the democratization of creativity. It is upon us, and it requires that you act. So,
by the way, I'm looking at my photography list on Facebook. Who's at top on the list on the it's Chase. Who do I
How
want?
about it? Can I get something?
Yeah, baby. Who do I want to have at my wedding or my concert shooting my stuff?
I've never shot either of those.
Well, you know, no, but I want to have common experiences with you, because I want to be in the same room with this new camera app coming out tomorrow, so that, hey, some of your social woofy, I guess, rubs off on me, and it's like I have a story to tell other people. Hey, I shot this concert with Chase, man, it was so awesome.
I love that. We've got just about 5 minutes left in the show. I want to start to wrap it up, but I feel like there's a handful of questions that haven't been answered. We should rapid fire these. Let's go, if we can, go for very brief answers to these questions, because I have a time limit I need to hit here.
Yep.
So the man with the microphone is probably next. Go ahead.
Stand up. I love the conversation.
Tell us a little, sorry.
Where do you see 2D going into 3D? Because you talk about these social experiences, but I mean, you can now take 10 pictures, turn it into a 3D thing, and now you can take your helicopter photo shoot and print it out and have a 3D experience, or it's just there's a whole new creative avenue of just repurposing 2D to 3D.
Yeah, and think about like Erasmo, where you get to take a picture of there's a print experience. You point your device at it, and it gives you video, and as that video evolves into 3D, you connect. That makes print even more relevant, right? Because you've got like this, you can suddenly, from this can emerge a 3D experience. And if you've listened to any filmmaker who is doing summer blockbusters, which again, banal or not, whatever, it's all moving to 3D. They're all, a bunch of them, James Cameron said, I'll never make another non-stereo movie. So it's going to play a huge role in the future. We got to keep moving on questions.
Part of what drove me in college was my photography professor said, always try to be different, always try to innovate, don't be better, be different. Don't shoot the rock band on stage, shoot the audience, shoot away from the crowd, look for another story. And so yeah, I'm playing around with 3D. It's not appropriate for very many things, but when it is, it's cool, Okay, pass that mic. I think there was a woman earlier. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hey, Robert. I find your argument about rewriting the social contract compelling, but so far it's been about person to person, maybe Google Glasses conflict or lack of trust with a company like Facebook. But have you had any thoughts about how we keep coercive or potentially coercive governments from using this information against us?
Very dangerous. We've got 3 minutes left, so we got to give this guy a very quick answer, because I got 90 seconds with this stuff.
Exposure makes all cockroaches go back underneath the table, right? And these glasses, as they get more and more used, are going to make people who behave badly toward other people have social consequences.
Enough said. Love it. Hopefully that's good. We can connect immediately after the show.
Tiananmen Square hasn't happened since we have cell phones. The government of China is still pretty nasty, but it hasn't been that nasty.
Oh great, now China's going to hate us.
Well, no. A billion people hating you, that's not bad.
It's not the first time. It's not the first time. It's not the first time. Rather than taking more questions, we're going to get these questions afterwards. I got to do a little bit of wrap up here. First of all, the winner of the 1200 watt second Broncolor Senso pack and kit is, the quote is, the act of photography isn't about capturing pixels, it's about capturing a moment and capturing emotion. And the winner, $3,500, goes to Seth Nensteel. Congratulations at Seth Nensteel. You are the big winner. Much respect. Send an email to production@ChaseJarvis.com. If you've liked anything you've heard today, please tune in again. The best way of finding out when we're broadcasting is to sign up. I'm pointing this way, and I always get asked not to, but that's if you're looking at it on the ChaseJarvis.com/live page. That's where our special email list. It's an exclusive email list that goes out about things that I'm doing with friends of mine and Chase Jarvis Live. So that would be helpful. Follow at Robert Scoble, Scobleizer actually.
Scobleizer.
At Scobleizer. You can figure that out by the net. I'm at Chase Jarvis. And again, a huge thanks for the folks that helped me make this show possible, specifically HP for being our headliner and helping me make the world a more creative place. Big thanks also to Braun for kicking over the Senso pack, and of course B&H for helping us with all this gear. It couldn't happen without you. And Glaziers again, thank you so much, Glaziers, for helping us with this stuff. I got 57 seconds to say thank you.
Yeah,
I really, really
This is
appreciate
awesome,
it.
man.
I really appreciate it. Can we get a huge round of applause for my good man, Robert Scoble? We're very much looking forward to your book, my man. Stick around out there in the audience. We'll have some time with Robert. And if you're at home, wherever you are out there in the internet land, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Look forward to your feedback. And thanks for sharing whatever it is that we're doing on the internet. Much respect. And I think we're out. Thank you. Appreciate it, Robert. Thanks, Ronnie.